So let me just back up. So Git flow is a term that is used by teams to manage their Git process so that there are few code conflicts, that it's clear where people are working, and that we're able to protect certain branches for continuous integration and continual deployment, right? So the idea is that, oh, come on. Oh boy, that's a thick one. Let's do this. Okay. Is that we have a main branch. Its purpose is to be stable and prepared for deployment. Okay. Because of that, we want to protect it. And we only want to put code in there that is stable. Okay. Only stable code. That's its purpose. Does that make sense? One way to consider it is like if you're a this is your product. The main branch is your product. That's the way I look at it in this flow. It's the thing that you've worked so hard. It's the thing that's your moneymaker. So that means if it's broken, you don't want it in there. You don't want to sell a broken product. So think of it that way. The main branch is your product. So that's why we protect it. But we need to get our work done. So that's why we have the develop branch. It's basically a community sandbox. Now, for those of us that didn't grow up in the United States, or don't really have the same affinity for sandboxes, sandboxes are playgrounds, right? It's places for us to play in. It's places for us to screw up in. It's places for us to just, to try things out. So this can be broken. Or maybe really it's less stable is the word. So that means, I brought some code in that but I haven't incorporated it with Graciella's code yet. So I don't know if it's going to work, but we got to put it somewhere to do it. So that's kind of what this is. We're pulling stuff into develop for us to work as a team. And then, but in order to do that, we have a whole bunch of different feature branches. And, at my job, each feature usually describes, maybe one or two issues in our issue log, our issues list. Okay, so maybe the name for this is the number of the issue and what we're trying to do. Add sign up. So that's the name of that branch. Now, in what we're doing here, we're also just saying this is John's branch. Sorry. Maybe this one's the Mehrdad branch. But the idea is that that this is single developer sandbox. So the scope of this branch should be kept somewhat small. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not trying to do 50,000 changes in my branch. The idea is that my branch should be changing just a few files at a time. Why do we do that? So that we don't have to have these massive merges back and forth. Simple merges are easy to resolve. Merges that involve 50 files are hard to resolve. Does that make sense? So I know in our class, we've been doing it this way. I think that this strategy is probably a little bit better, in which case this branch, the add sign up branch, will only last as long as that feature needs to be developed. Once the feature is completely developed, I can get rid of that branch. So you can see that's one strategy. The other strategy is, this is my branch, John branch. So I work in it, make my changes, and then I need to bring them into develop. These are pull requests. Pull request. So that my changes can now be available for everybody. But you can see, like, once I've pulled in everybody's changes to develop, my branch is out of sync. Right? So that means I need to actually merge develop into my branch so that I can get Mehrdad's changes and I can get Robert's changes and everybody, so that I am up to date with what's happening here. The changes that have been merged to develop from develop into my specific branch, when I go to do a pull request, they don't get pulled in because they're already in. Okay, does that make sense? Really, when we're pull requests and merges, are only bringing in changes. Okay, they're not fully replacing what was there. Does that make sense? Can I just stop for a second, since there's only like a handful of us? Any questions so far on what I'm talking about here?
I would like to ask for a little bit of clarification. So a pull request, as you have right there, it says pull request and merges only bring in differences. So pull requests would be adding code to another branch, and merging would be taking code to another branch. Like one you're giving it, the other you're taking it.
Actually, no. Any difference. So a difference is I'm adding a file. A difference is I'm changing a file. A difference is I'm removing a file. Those are all differences. So if in my feature branch, I've removed a file that is in develop, that change will come with it. That's a change. Does that make sense? I mean, think of it this way. I know that I know that the medium is files, right? The thing we're working in is files. But really, Git is interested in the changes to those files. That's what it's keeping track of. So if you make a change in feature branch, I'm sorry, if I make a change here in John branch, which is to remove a file, and I do a pull request into develop, that removal of the file is what gets pulled over. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. So I guess I'm mainly asking what the distinction between a pull request and a merge is.
Well, it's really more a matter of working with your community of developers. And you have to think of it as a community, right? We're a team, right? So I can do a merge locally on my machine and not tell anybody, right? I can merge all day long. A pull request is a more formalized version of it. and this is why when we protect branches, you have to use the pull request. It's adding a discipline to your team to say, hey, I'm ready to merge my code from my branch into the develop branch. So I'm making a request to the team to pull my changes into develop. That's a pull request or merge request. So it's kind of it's a team strategy, because what that does then, it lifts it to everybody's attention to say, okay, is John's code actually stable enough to come in? Is it going to break this? What's the purpose? Why are we doing this? So it brings a community discussion. It also is an opportunity to do a review of John's code. Is John's code actually well done? Are there some things we could do better? And so you can see the net effect is it's just a merge, Nick, and I think you sussed that out. But the process is more team merge. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And now on these little groups like this, we're just kind of, you know, we're in the same Slack, you know, we can say, all right, I merge this and you're good and whatever. But on a bigger team, it's a bigger deal. Because what if this right here, you know, is $1 million product, and that if it goes down, you're losing $1,000 a day or $1,000 a second or whatever it is. So there's a reason why we protect this. And so building this, and it's up to us to kind of teach you that this is the process. So does this overall kind of make sense as to what we're doing? Any other questions?
Hey John, where does deployment sit in this whole realm?
Well, we're just talking about dev right now, right? We're talking about this Git flow. So deployment is kind of that's a whole other topic.
Mhm.
Deployment can incorporate Git as part of its process. So for example, GitHub has a connector to where you can connect to your Heroku project to whenever you do a pull request into main, that it will trigger a deployment to Heroku. It's because Heroku uses Git as the code that it uses to deploy. When you deploy, you have to move code from one place to another. You have to move it from here to the server. And so Heroku uses Git to do that because, as you've noticed, Git has this way of transferring files. So that is one strategy. Does that kind of answer your question, Garima?
Mhm.
Okay. I think the last part of this is that, yeah, when we're thinking of getting ready to deploy, we would do a pull request here. So, you know, there's actually, if you really want to get technical, you could branch off from develop. Golly. So let's say we have our develop branch pretty stable. It has all the features we want, and we're trying to take our $1 million product out to market. We want to deploy this, but we still want to make sure that it passes all the tests. So we will actually make a release branch, which is a way for us to bring it through and make sure it's stable, completely stable. So it's here that you could do final tests. Version. So this would be a version, like maybe we have 2.13.3. This would be the release that we're trying to get to. But the idea is that we're only doing fixes and just basically prepping it for deployment. And then once this is stable, this is where you would do a pull request into main. this is, to me, is actually a much better flow, because it makes sure that, you know, we have this branch that can go through a number of tests before it goes out. It also allows develop to continually being developed while we work on this release branch. And then actually, once this has been pulled in, you would merge main back into develop, because there might be some changes in the release branch that aren't in develop. Now, for our class, I would say, let's not use a release branch. Boop, 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 boop. Because I think it's overkill for what we're trying to do here. As I think that's as far back as it goes. For our class, let's just do pull requests from develop into main. So when you're ready to deploy, that's what you would do, is do a pull request into main. And main would be our stable pile of code.
I have a question.
Yes.
By any chance, if someone does a mistake, but main is protected, we've went into main and we physically clicked to protect it. When you are on your command line, can you officially push to main by mistake if that branch is protected? Because we push into our branch, then merge to develop. If that's stable, we push to main, pull to main.
No, in fact, that's the whole idea, is that, and it's using GitHub, right? So it's using GitHub to manage this. So here's the thing. Here's the other part of this that we need to be aware of, is that, let me go to this, is that there's a copy of the project on GitHub, right? So if you look here, here's a copy of my project on GitHub at a certain commit. Here's all the files. But copy. When I do a clone, I'm basically bringing a copy of it to my computer. And then not only that, is that it is tracking. Oops, I need a pen. What will be a good color for this? It's actually tracking this one. This main branch, maybe the right thing would be, this main branch is tracking the main branch up in GitHub. So this is a remote. And your local can have many remotes. So in this case, GitHub, shoot, just trying to get rid of that guy. GitHub is hosting a remote of my project that has been kind of given the alias origin. That's why we have this term origin. And the reason why it's called origin is because this is where we cloned it from. But I could very easily change the name to Joe if I really wanted to. I can name it whatever the heck I want. Origin is really just, it's just an alias to that one. Does this kind of make sense? We've seen this in some of the code you'll see origin. So it means that when I'm here looking on my local, and if I do a git branch to see all the different branches, I will see I will see main here. This one is referred to as origin main. Does that kind of make sense? The difference between origin and we don't really go through these details when we introduce you to Git. So, but it's really helpful to understand these concepts. So what oftentimes happens is that here I am on my local machine val and I start doing code and I'm in the main branch. And I'm just saying, well, I just want to commit them and push them. I can commit them to my local main, right? So say I change the README. Here I've just changed the README somehow on my local, but if I commit it and I try to push it, it'll say you can't do that because the main has been protected. So main is protected on GitHub because on GitHub's server, we protected it by hand, right, in the settings. But main down on my local is not protected in the same way. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
So what I'm trying to say is there's a discipline you have to do when you're working on your local machine, which is before you code, check your branch. So that means don't sit there and code for 3 days in the main branch and realize, oh crap, I've been in main this whole time. And I've been committing. If you haven't committed, it's not a problem really, because you can take those changes uncommitted. But really, if you've committed into your local main, it's like, oh man, that's just a real drag. So, create, maybe I should do this. Create feature branch from develop. Gosh darn it. And this is, I guess, well, hold on before we even do that. Pull develop from remote. It looks like I got this screwed up here. So before I create my own feature branch, I got to make sure I have the latest develop code. Once I have that, create feature branch from develop. Make my code changes in feature branch. And I'm the feature branch, like we were saying, there's different names for it. I could call it John's branch. I could call it a branch around a certain issue, just something that is mine, or it's my branch I can work in. One of the things that I have on my terminal is, and this is extremely helpful, is that when I'm in doubt, look at my terminal prompt. It tells me if there is a Git project in the directory I'm in, like if I just say present working directory, and there's a Git project in here, it'll notice that and it'll tell me which branch I'm on, which is extremely helpful because it prevents me from starting to write code in the wrong branch.
Does Mac have something of that feature? Maybe Zash has that?
So Val, you have a PC maybe, right?
I have a Mac.
Okay, well, so I notice on Git Bash on the PC does this, right? It puts this in the path. if you're on a Mac, you have to, I had to change my bash profile, and I'm using bash on my Mac. If you have a newer operating system, it's probably Z Shell,
Z shell, yeah.
right? There's something similar, the ability to go in, and I would just do a Google search for this. Is that this is the way that you modify your, and it looks like I have this commented out because I think I changed it down here.
You know, we're supposed to look at your screen or your iPad right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. God damn it. I'm sharing.
Sorry.
Yeah, let me stop my share and come over to this one. So let me get out of here. So yeah, you can see my terminal prompt has John branch, tells me which branch I'm in. And this is the directory I'm in. PWD, present working directory. This directory has a Git project, so it goes and sees that which branch I'm in. So if I change my branch, if I say Git checkout develop, now this is showing develop. And again, Git bash on the PC, it does this for us. If you're on a Mac, as I was just explaining to Val, I had to edit my bash profile. The bash profile in your user folder, the .bash profile, has all kinds of useful like settings for your bash session. And what I've included in here is I have some shell scripts that I pulled out of some Udacity thing I downloaded, but also it sets up my whatever you call it, my prompt to include my current Git profile or my Git branch. What I would suggest, Val, is go do a Google search. How do I do this? And then do it. And then you learn how to set your Git profile, or I'm sorry, your bash profile. Nobody taught me how to do this. I did it on my own. So that's how I suggest you do it. This kind of customization.
Hey, John, that kind of path of doing like Git checkout develop is what I had done on project one. But this project, for some reason, whenever I try to do Git checkout develop, it doesn't recognize. It just says there's no develop folder. So what I've had to kind of do a workaround. And
well, hold on. Let's take a step back.
Okay.
Because so when let's see, when you first clone the project, it doesn't bring all the branches down. So if you are first checking out a branch that's up on GitHub and not on your local, you have to make sure you check out that remote branch. Because here let me stop my share again and come over to my iPad. And it takes a little bit of time. There. Is that, you remember this part, Robert, where my local has to be tracking. Oh, great. Now my pen's dead.
I told you the batteries were low last class.
Well, it gets down, and you know how I charge it is I just stick it in my iPad, but my iPad's connected to my computer. So dang, that's okay. So, but remember, Robert, how we're saying how my local branch has to track something in the origin.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to make sure, and you and I can go over this together, but
sure.
I want you to conceptually understand, it's like when I do a Git checkout of a branch on my local, it doesn't necessarily mean it's tracking anything. I have to actually then tell it to make sure it's tracking a remote branch. There's some things that are automatic in our developer world, and some things it's up to us. And so I'm trying to explain to you the concepts so that you might be able to like debug
So
this on
it
your own.
really is coming down to a step that I didn't do in the beginning. and that
Probably.
is-
Yeah,
okay.
probably. Yeah, so on number 4, make my code changes in the feature branch. Then you push those up, right? You commit them, push them up, do the code, I'm sorry, then do the pull request.
Mhm.
Then on your local machine, if you want to incorporate other people's changes, you check out develop on your local machine.
Right.
Do a pull. So you're pulling from develop. You've not made any changes in the develop branch, locally. Then you check out your local branch. You check out your feature branch. And then you merge develop into that. So that's how you're
Right.
bringing other people's changes into your local branch.
Yeah, I understand that part. It's just because I must not have set it up correctly in the beginning. I've been able to push into my branch and then do the pull request
Okay.
and make sure like the develop's up to date. But I have to do git pull origin develop, and then that pulls
Okay.
everything from the origin folder and then puts it on my local branch.
And so all that's just saying is that your local branch has not been told to track the remote. But
Okay.
I'll bet you if you're in the, I'll bet you, Robert, that if you check out your local develop, and if you do a git pull, there'll be a little message saying, hey, you're not tracking anything. But if you say git pull / set upstream origin develop,
I never did
that's
that.
how you attach it to track something.
Okay, I remember doing that in the first project. I did not do that this time.
So and the thing of it is Git's pretty nice about it. It tells you right there. If you just do git pull, it'll say, hey, we're not tracking, but here's how you could track it.
Okay.
So follow those directions.
Cool.
So this is my little Git flow tutorial. It's really kind of, I'm hoping, filling in sort of the ideas behind it. And hopefully that gives you a little bit more context as to why we're doing it, but also gives you a strategy on how to be successful. Some of it, where it goes wrong is where you type something wrong once. It just, and it gets out of sync somehow. So working with discipline, making sure you're coding only in your feature branch. That's number 1. It's safer in your own sandbox. Just put it that way. It's easier to fix things if it's in your sandbox. Using pull requests. Not merging into develop or into master from your local machine. So that develop and master / main, whatever, that those are not places you make changes. Okay. Any other questions on this?
John, actually, I have a question if possible.
Okay. I'm gonna
So,
unhook my iPad here.
okay.
Okay. What's your question?
So if two person works in one file and this they do the pull together
Yes.
and try to merge it with develop branch, which one develop branch gets and which one ignores?
Okay, so your question, as I understand it, is you're working in your feature branch and Lexi's working in her feature branch, and you're both working on
One file.
you're
Same
both
file.
working on API-routes, something like that. And so the thing of it is that you would, and you're saying, would you be merging at the very exact same time?
Not really. I mean, that's in
So-
2 different times.
Right. I mean that, and even then on computer, there's going to be a subtle change in time. One of you is going to come before the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so what it'll do is it'll take your changes if you're first. It's just looking for changes. And then you pull them over. And then Lexi would do hers and pull hers over. Now, if hers overwrote yours, it means that you guys were not coordinating on your work. But also, when you do that pull request, you have an opportunity to actually see the changes. So that's part of the advantage of doing a pull request together. Is you can say, your dad says, okay, so those are the things I changed. And Lexi says, oh, wait a minute. And then you would be sitting there able to compare what is the thing we need to do. And you have a conversation like people, right? Because that's what people do. They talk it out and figure out what is the right thing to do. At some point, you have to have that negotiation as what's right. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if you have if I do it like 10:30 and someone else do it at 10:45, tomorrow morning if someone wants to pull, which one that person can pull?
Merdad, it's the one who put their stuff in the last, right? So that's what I'm saying is that pull requests should be done as a team. If you do them individually, who
That
knows
is
what gets
true,
developed?
yes.
That is why it's really good to have email notifications when somebody creates a pull request. You go and review it,
That's a good idea.
then you accept it.
Right?
Everybody knows.
Actually, it's a team sport. So
Yeah.
you have to actually work together to sort these things out. Now, this is also a reason to organize your workflow so that even before it even gets to that, Merdad, you say, hey, I'm working in API routes today. You know, is anybody else going to be? And then they can say, oh, well, I needed to add something. Therefore, you're actually talking to each other and saying, all right, well, I'm going to work on it this time and wait till I'm committed this before you get into it. That way you can have that conversation.
Okay.
Because if you're all off in your own worlds and you pull it together and it's just, and then you're going to have like, where's my code? How come my code doesn't work? And it's because there was no good communication. So just like anything in life between people, better communication is going to solve the problems.
Okay. So
But
nothing.
here's the thing, it also takes discipline. I want to say this because here's the thing, and I'm guilty of this. You start working, and then before you know it, you're working in like 5 different files, and like it starts to kind of get bigger and bigger. And before you know it, that discipline has been kind of rocked. So it really does take, you know, that tighter communication to make sure you're not stepping on each other's toes.
Mhm.
So, and it's also reasons for like splitting the code project into different folders and different areas of concern. So that's why we do model view controller. It really makes different areas of concern where certain people can be working and not really be concerned with what's happening on the model, because I can develop a view without knowing what the model is. You see what I'm saying? And therefore I could be working in the view folder and Lexi can be working in the models folder and Val can be working on routes, and hopefully we can be working independently.
Thanks, John.
Yeah. Okay, so this is my little Git flow thing. Any other questions?
I have a question, but it's not about the Git flow.
That's okay. I think we beat this one.
Cool.
I think we've got enough of it out there. What you got?
On our project, we are working on trying to make sure our front and back ends are connecting, like, and showing at least something so we can get our project going. And for some reason, when we go to our like page that displays all of like what it's supposed to display, like the handlebar like template that Kelsey made, it's just displaying a JSON object. And I've tried it like a bunch of different ways, and it just keeps showing the object. And and then I've talked to like 2 TAs, and I'm at a point where I'm just like, I hate it. I hate it. I don't want to do it anymore.
Okay, well then we got to just look at your code here.
Okay.
Lexi, did you see the Slack?
No, did you fix it?
Yeah,
How did you fix it?
it's the server.js.
Okay, so it's working then.
It's DAO rocks.
Cool.
So the server.js is still the old file that we copied from the activity. We didn't edit it yet. So
Okay.
it's not making the connection.
Okay, cool. So you got, did you, okay, perfect. We're having like our new stand-up in the main room now. while we're-
Oh, yeah.
Well
Cool,
done.
when you like push it, I'll just pull it down and then it'll work. Oh my gosh, it's stable. I was
You
ready.
need
to
some
quit.
sleep. Let's
Yeah.
talk about it tomorrow.
Okay, thanks so much. Never mind, John. We don't need you.
Solved. I'll take it. Good. Well, in that case, it looks like Sai is still hanging out, but I don't think she needs to because she's in a room. Oh, she left. Or no, Sai's here now. No, she's not. Where'd she go? She just quit. Who else is here? I've got Ming and Jessica in one room and Lily and Abdul in another. But I think I could probably call it for us. What do you guys think? Let's wrap it and then we'll see you guys on Saturday.
Okay. Thank you very much, John.
Yeah, thank you, John.
I think that everyone are happy that you're teaching us.
Oh,
It was
well,
super nice.
I'm hopeful that is the case.
Thank you.
Because
All right, if you
Have a good
stop recording, I'm gonna talk with Val. Val, do
Yeah.
you have like?
Text me before you do that.